Captain Vex Grimtooth adjusted his eye patch for the third time in 10 minutes, which was never a good sign. The reptilian pirate captain had exactly 2 tells when things were about to go spectacularly wrong, the eye patch fidgeting and his tendency to hiss through his teeth like a deflating balloon. Blort. He barked at the gelatinous mass of anxiety that served as his navigator. Tell me again why this cargo vessel looks like it's made of yellow metal and has tiny viewing ports. Blort's eye stalk swiveled nervously as he consulted his instruments with all the confidence of someone who'd gotten his pilot's license from a cereal box. Well, Captain, the scanner indicates high-value biological cargo and minimal defensive capabilities. Plus, it's broadcasting some kind of educational content on loop, probably trying to make their cargo smarter before selling it. Krik, their weapons specialist, clicked his mandibles excitedly. The insectoid pirate had the trigger discipline of a caffeinated toddler and the strategic thinking to match. Can we blow something up now? I haven't blown anything up in almost 6 hours. Not yet, you walking pest control advertisement, Vex growled. We board first, then we see what we're dealing with. The boarding process went smoothly, which should have been their first warning. The second warning came when they breached the airlock and found themselves face to face with 30 small humans sitting in rows, all staring at them with the kind of wide-eyed fascination usually reserved for zoo animals. Oh wow, said one particularly small human with sandy hair and a backpack covered in cartoon dragons. Are you guys real aliens? This is so much cooler than the planetarium. Vex's brain, which operated on roughly the same processing power as a broken calculator, struggled to compute this response. In his 15 years of piracy, victims usually screamed, begged, or occasionally tried to bribe him. They did not compliment his authenticity as an extraterrestrial life form. Ah, said Vex, demonstrating the eloquence that had made him captain. Yes, we are real aliens, and you are our prisoners. The small human, who wore a name tag reading Tommy Morrison, age 8, clapped his hands together. This is the best field trip ever. Wait until I tell my dad about this. He's going to be so jealous. Blort oozed closer to Vex, leaving a trail of nervous slime. Captain, I think we may have made a miscalculation. Nonsense, Vex declared, puffing out his chest scales. We are fearsome pirates. They are small, defenseless creatures. What could possibly go wrong? Tommy raised his hand politely. Excuse me, Mr. Alien, but are you planning to keep us for long? Because my dragons are probably going to notice I'm missing pretty soon, and they get really cranky when people take their things without asking. Dragons? Krik's compound eyes lit up with interest. Like the mythical creatures from human folklore? How delightfully primitive. Tommy's expression grew serious in the way that should have sent warning bells through every survival instinct the pirates possessed. Unfortunately, evolution had not equipped them with functioning survival instincts, which was how they'd ended up as pirates in the first place. Oh, they're not mythical, Tommy said cheerfully. They're very real. And very big. And they really don't like it when people mess with me. Vex laughed, a sound like grinding gears in a blender. Child, there are no dragons in space. We have scanned this entire system. Tommy shrugged. Maybe they're just really good at hiding. They practiced a lot. As if summoned by his words, the ship's proximity alarms began shrieking with all the subtlety of a dying whale. Blort's eye stalks nearly tied themselves in knots as he checked his sensors. Captain, Blort whispered, his voice climbing several octaves, I'm reading massive energy signatures approaching our position. Multiple contacts, size classification, oh dear. What? Vex demanded. Well, sir, according to my instruments, we're about to be visited by several very large, very angry dragons. Tommy smiled the kind of innocent smile that had historically preceded the fall of civilizations. I tried to warn you. 20 minutes later, the crew of the petty theft had managed to accomplish what galactic diplomats had been trying to achieve for centuries: first contact with humanity. Unfortunately, they had also managed to mess it up in ways that would be studied in xenopolitical science classes for generations to come. Let me get this straight. Vex said, pacing back and forth in front of Tommy while Blort and Krik huddled in the corner like guilty children. You are from a planet called Earth. This yellow vehicle is a school transportation device, and we have just committed what your species would consider kidnapping. Tommy nodded enthusiastically while carefully coloring what appeared to be a picture of a very large, very toothy creature with wings. Yep. And this is supposed to be our first time meeting aliens, so it's kind of a big deal. Miss Blackwood says first impressions are super important. Miss Blackwood? Blort squeaked. My teacher. She's probably trying to call you right now. She used to be in something called Special Forces before she started teaching 3rd grade. She says dealing with 8-year-olds was harder than combat training. As if summoned by the mention of her name, the ship's communication system crackled to life. A crisp, professional voice filled the bridge, carrying undertones that suggested its owner could probably kill someone with a paperclip. Unidentified vessel. This is Zara Blackwood of Lincoln Elementary School. You have taken one of my students without permission, which violates several Earth laws, interstellar treaties that don't exist yet, and my personal code of ethics. I strongly suggest you return Tommy Morrison immediately. Vex activated the comm with shaking claws. Greetings, human. We are, galactic pirates. Your offspring is our prisoner. There was a pause that somehow managed to convey the exact moment when a former military professional realized she was dealing with amateurs. I see. And what exactly do you want in exchange for Tommy's safe return? We haven't thought that far ahead yet. Another pause, this one slightly more dangerous. You kidnapped a child without having an actual plan? Tommy looked up from his drawing. Can I talk to Miss Blackwood? I want to tell her about the spaceship. Before Vex could stop him, Tommy had bounced over to the communication panel. Hi, Miss Blackwood. These aliens are really nice, but I think they might be new at the whole pirate thing. Their ship doesn't even have a proper brig. Tommy, are you hurt? The concern in Blackwood's voice was palpable. Nope. Captain Vex gave me some alien fruit juice, and Blort showed me how their navigation works. Did you know they use quantum entanglement for faster-than-light travel? That's so much cooler than rockets. Vex felt his career in piracy crumbling around him like a sandcastle in a hurricane. How does the small human understand quantum mechanics? Oh, I read about it in Dad's books. He has lots of books about space stuff because of his job. What does your father do? Blort asked, though his tone suggested he already dreaded the answer. Tommy brightened. He's an admiral. He's in charge of protecting Earth from alien invasions and stuff. He's going to think you guys are so cool. The bridge fell silent except for the gentle hum of life support systems and the sound of 3 alien pirates reconsidering their life choices. Miss Blackwood's voice returned, now carrying a note of barely suppressed amusement. Did he just say his father is Admiral Morrison? You know my dad? Tommy asked excitedly. Tommy, every military person in the Sol system knows your father. He's the one who designed Earth's new defense fleet. Tommy nodded sagely. The dragons. They're his favorite project. He says they're the most beautiful and terrifying things humanity has ever built. He let me help name some of them. Krik, who had been unusually quiet, finally spoke up. Defense fleet? Oh yeah, Tommy said, returning to his drawing. Dad says if anyone ever tries to hurt Earth or take our people, the dragons will show them why you don't mess with humans. He says they're powered by righteous fury and parental instincts. Miss Blackwood's voice carried a new edge of professional interest. Tommy, are you somewhere safe where you can see the viewports? Uh-huh. Why? Because I think your dragons just arrived. The view screen lit up with an image that would have been beautiful if it hadn't been absolutely terrifying. 12 massive ships had appeared in formation around the petty theft, and they were indeed designed to look like dragons. Sleek, organic curves suggested scales and musculature, while weapon emplacements glowed like burning eyes. Each ship was easily 10 times the size of the pirate vessel, and they moved with the coordinated grace of a pack of predators. Oh wow. Tommy pressed his face against the nearest viewport. There's Smag and Drogon and Falkor. And that big one in the middle is Bahamut, Dad's flagship. He calls it the overprotective parent when Mom's not listening. Vex's eye patch had stopped its nervous twitching, mainly because the rest of him had gone completely rigid with terror. Those are your dragons? Yep. Aren't they pretty? Dad says they're designed to be intimidating but also aesthetically pleasing. He believes in the importance of style and military engineering. The lead dragon ship opened a communication channel, and a calm, measured voice filled the bridge. It was the kind of voice that suggested its owner could discuss the weather while simultaneously planning 17 different ways to end you. This is Admiral Rex Morrison of the Earth Defense Fleet. You have something that belongs to me. Tommy waved at the view screen. Hi, Dad. I'm having the best day ever. There was a pause that somehow managed to convey both paternal relief and barely controlled homicidal rage. Hello, son. Are you hurt? Nope. Captain Vex and his crew are really nice. They're just not very good at being pirates yet. I've been giving them some tips. I see. And what tips have you been giving them, Tommy? Well, first I told them that taking kids without permission makes their parents really mad. Then I explained about ransom demands and proper negotiation tactics. Oh, and I drew them a picture of you when you found out someone took me without asking. Tommy held up his drawing, which depicted a figure that looked suspiciously like the Grim Reaper, but with more teeth and what appeared to be a military uniform. Admiral Morrison's voice remained perfectly level. That's very thoughtful of you, son. Now, would the captain of the vessel please respond? Vex approached the communication panel with all the enthusiasm of someone walking to their own execution. Admiral Morrison, I am Captain Vex Grimtooth. This is all a terrible misunderstanding. Oh, I understand perfectly, Captain. You saw what you thought was an easy target, boarded a school transport, and accidentally committed an act of war against humanity during our species' first contact with galactic civilization. When put like that, it sounded even worse than Vex had thought possible. However, the Admiral continued, my son seems to like you, which means you haven't harmed him. This significantly improves your life expectancy. Commander Sarah Mitchell's voice joined the conversation, crisp and professional. Captain Grimtooth, this is Commander Mitchell. We're prepared to offer you a very simple deal. What kind of deal? Vex asked suspiciously. You return Admiral Morrison's son immediately and unharmed. In exchange, we don't demonstrate why Earth's defense fleet is called the Dragons. Tommy looked up from where he was now drawing what appeared to be a spaceship shaped like a friendly dinosaur. Commander Mitchell, can you tell Dad that these guys are really sorry? I think they just made a mistake. I'll pass that along, Tommy. Your father wants to know if you need anything. Can you ask him to bring the chocolate chip cookies Mom packed for my lunch? I shared my snacks with Captain Vex, but alien food is kind of weird. Blort oozed forward nervously. Admiral Morrison, we truly meant no harm. We simply thought we were capturing a standard cargo vessel. You thought a school bus was a cargo ship? Commander Mitchell's voice carried the faint sound of someone trying not to laugh. In our defense, Krik interjected, we're not very good at this. Tommy nodded in agreement. That's what I told them. I said they needed to do more research and maybe get better equipment. Their scanner can't even tell the difference between a school bus and a freight hauler. Admiral Morrison's voice returned, now carrying a note of paternal pride mixed with exasperation. Son, please stop giving tactical advice to the people who kidnapped you. But Dad, they really need help. Did you know they don't even have proper escape pods? What if their ship breaks? We'll discuss their ship safety features later, Tommy. Right now, we need to arrange for your return. Vex found himself in the surreal position of negotiating with one of humanity's most dangerous military leaders, while said leader's 8-year-old son offered helpful commentary but on piracy techniques. Admiral Morrison, Vex said carefully, what assurances do we have that you won't simply destroy us once your son is safely returned? You have my word as an officer and a father that if you return my son unharmed, Your punishment will be limited to whatever the appropriate authorities deem necessary for kidnapping and first contact violations. Tommy looked up brightly. That means you probably won't die. Dad's really good at keeping his promises. Dr. Elena Vasquez's voice joined the increasingly crowded communication channel, bringing with it the calm authority of someone who had spent years studying theoretical alien contact scenarios and was now watching them all go spectacularly wrong in real time. This is Dr. Vasquez, Earth's chief xenobiologist. Captain Grimtooth, I need you to understand something very important about human psychology. More important than the fact that we accidentally started an interstellar incident? Vex asked weakly. Much more important. You see, humans are what we call a pack bonding species. We form extremely strong social connections, particularly with our offspring. When those bonds are threatened, we tend to react with overwhelming force. Tommy nodded sagely. That's why Dad built the dragons. He says the best way to keep your family safe is to make sure everyone knows what happens if they try to hurt them. General Thompson's voice cut through the conversation like a rusty knife. Admiral Morrison, I respectfully suggest we demonstrate human defensive capabilities to these pirates, but a show of force might prevent future incidents. General Thompson, please remember that my son is still aboard their vessel. Admiral Morrison replied with the patience of someone who had dealt with overeager subordinates before. Oh, don't worry about me, General Thompson. Tommy called out cheerfully. I'm having fun. Did you know alien ships use bio-neural circuits? It's like the ship is part computer and part pet. Dr. Vasquez cleared her throat diplomatically. Captain Grimtooth, perhaps we should discuss the cultural implications of your actions. In human society, taking someone's child is considered one of the most serious crimes possible. How serious? Blort asked, though his tone suggested he didn't really want to know. Well, let's put it this way. Throughout human history, entire wars have been fought over kidnapped children. Cities have been razed, civilizations have fallen, and legends have been born. Krik's mandibles clicked nervously. That seems like an excessive response to a simple misunderstanding. Tommy looked up from his latest drawing, which appeared to depict alien pirates attending a tea party with various Earth animals. It's not excessive if you really love someone. Dad says love makes people do crazy things, but it also makes them strong enough to protect what matters. Admiral Morrison's voice softened slightly. That's right, son. Now, Captain Grimtooth, let me explain your situation in terms you might understand. You have taken the most precious thing in my universe. Every ship in my fleet, every weapon in our arsenal, every tactical advantage we possess is currently focused on getting him back safely. But here's the thing, Commander Mitchell added. Admiral Morrison is also one of the most reasonable and honorable officers in the fleet. He's giving you a chance to resolve this peacefully. What happens if we don't take that chance? Vex asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. Tommy held up his newest drawing, which showed a very large dragon-shaped ship next to a very small pirate ship. The scale difference was significant. Well, Tommy said thoughtfully, Dad once told me that sometimes the best way to solve a problem is to make it so big that everyone involved realizes they should have thought harder before starting it. General Thompson's voice carried barely contained enthusiasm. The Admiral is being remarkably restrained, Captain. If it were my child, we'd already be conducting what we call a kinetic diplomacy session. Dr. Vasquez sighed audibly. What the General means is that human parents can become quite irrational when their children are threatened. It's an evolutionary survival trait that served us well on our home planet. How irrational? Blort whispered. Tommy counted on his fingers. Well, there was this one time when a bully at school pushed me down and Dad showed up to pick me up that day in his dress uniform. He didn't say anything mean or scary, but the bully's parents moved to a different state the next week. I simply had a polite conversation with the other child's family. Admiral Morrison's voice carried a note of paternal smugness. Dad, you brought Commander Mitchell and 3 other officers with you, and you wore your Medal of Honor. I wanted to make a good impression. Commander Mitchell's laugh was audible over the comm. The Admiral's version of making a good impression involves demonstrating exactly how many ways he's legally allowed to end someone's existence. Vex was beginning to understand that he had managed to kidnap not just any human child, but the offspring of what appeared to be humanity's most politely terrifying military leader. Captain Grimtooth, Dr. Vasquez continued, I should also mention that human children are remarkably adaptable. They often view unusual situations as adventures rather than threats. That's true, Tommy agreed. This is way more interesting than learning about the solar system at the planetarium. Plus, I get to practice my alien languages. You speak alien languages? Krik asked in surprise. Tommy rattled off something in what sounded like perfect galactic standard, followed by what appeared to be Blort's native tongue. Blort's eye stalks nearly fell off. How does he know gastropodic? Dad says knowing other languages is important for diplomacy. He taught me lots of them in case we ever met friendly aliens. Tommy paused thoughtfully. I guess you guys count as friendly, right? You haven't hurt anyone, and you shared your snacks. Admiral Morrison's voice carried a note of parental pride mixed with exasperation. Son, please remember that they did kidnap you. Yeah, but it was an accident. And they're really sorry about it? Aren't you, Captain Vex? Vex found himself nodding before he realized what he was doing. Yes, we are extremely sorry about this entire situation. See? They're good people who just made a mistake. Can we keep them, Dad? The silence that followed was filled with the sound of several highly trained military professionals trying not to laugh. One xenobiologist taking notes for what would undoubtedly become the most interesting first contact report in galactic history. And 3 alien pirates realizing they had been adopted by an 8-year-old human. The prisoner exchange was scheduled to take place in neutral space, halfway between the petty theft and Admiral Morrison's flagship. It should have been a simple handoff. Tommy gets safely returned. The pirates get arrested by whatever passed for galactic law enforcement. And humanity's first contact with alien civilization gets marked down as complicated but ultimately successful. Of course, nothing involving Tommy Morrison was ever simple. I don't want to go yet, Tommy announced as Vex reluctantly prepared the shuttle for the exchange. We haven't finished our friendship bracelets. Indeed, Tommy had somehow convinced Krik to help him weave colorful strands of fabric into what appeared to be interspecies jewelry. The sight of a heavily armed insectoid warrior carefully braiding tiny threads while an 8-year-old human offered encouragement was surreal enough to make seasoned diplomats question their career choices. Tommy, Vex said as gently as his gravelly voice would allow, your father is waiting for you. And we have caused enough trouble already. But I haven't taught you guys how to properly surrender yet. Dad always says that if you're going to do something, you should do it right. Blort oozed closer, his anxiety levels reaching new heights. What do you mean, properly surrender? Tommy pulled out what appeared to be a hand-drawn manual titled How to Give Up Like a Professional, a guide by Tommy Morrison, age 8. The illustrations were surprisingly detailed. Well, first you have to make sure everyone knows you're sorry and that it was all a big mistake. Then you have to promise not to do it again. Then you have to offer to make up for what you did wrong. And how exactly do we make up for kidnapping you? Vex asked. Tommy's eyes lit up with the kind of dangerous enthusiasm that had historically preceded major diplomatic breakthroughs and minor international incidents. Easy. You become Earth's first alien ambassadors. The shuttle bay fell silent except for the gentle hum of life support and the sound of 3 alien pirates processing what might have been either the best or worst idea they'd ever heard. Admiral Morrison's voice crackled through the comm system. Son, what are you planning now? Dad, these guys didn't mean to cause trouble. They just don't know how things work around here. What if we taught them? Commander Mitchell's voice joined the conversation. Tommy, they're pirates. We can't just give pirates diplomatic immunity. But they're reformed pirates now. They said they were sorry, and they shared their snacks, and Krik taught me how to braid with 4 hands instead of 2. Dr. Vasquez's voice carried the fascination of a scientist watching evolution in real time. This is actually quite remarkable. The child has managed to establish pack bonding behaviors with his captors in less than 4 hours. Is that good or bad? Blort whispered. For you? Probably very good. Humans tend to protect members of their pack, even adopted ones. General Thompson's voice cut through the discussion with military precision. Admiral, we still need to address the fact that these individuals committed an act of piracy against Earth citizens. Tommy nodded seriously. That's true, General Thompson. But Dad always says that the best punishment is the one that makes sure the bad thing doesn't happen again. And how do we ensure that, son? We give them jobs. If they're working for us, they can't be pirates anymore. It's like when you made Sergeant Parker stop betting on the combat simulations by putting him in charge of organizing them. Admiral Morrison's chuckle was audible over the comm. That did work surprisingly well. Plus, Tommy continued, warming to his theme, they already know about space piracy and alien cultures and stuff. That makes them perfect for helping other humans understand how not to accidentally become pirates. Vex found himself speaking before his brain caught up with his mouth. We would be honored to serve as Earth's ambassadors, if such a thing were possible. See? Tommy beamed. They want to help. Commander Mitchell's voice carried a note of professional interest. It would solve several diplomatic problems. We need alien contacts for trade negotiations, and they need to avoid spending the rest of their lives in a detention facility. Dr. Vasquez was practically vibrating with excitement. From a xenobiological perspective, this could provide invaluable insights into alien psychology and culture. General Thompson sounded less convinced. And from a security perspective? Tommy held up another drawing, this one showing human and alien figures holding hands around what appeared to be a very large spaceship. General Thompson, Dad says the best way to make sure someone doesn't fight you is to make them your friend. The boy has a point, Admiral Morrison admitted. It's harder to plan attacks against people you genuinely care about. Krik clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. We could teach human defense forces about common pirate tactics and ship vulnerabilities. And I could help map safe trade routes through sectors we know well, Blort added, getting caught up in the enthusiasm. And I could learn to be a proper captain instead of just a pirate who steals things, Vex said quietly. Tommy clapped his hands together. This is the best first contact ever. We made friends and solved a diplomatic crisis, and nobody had to blow anything up. Admiral Morrison's voice carried paternal pride mixed with resignation. Son, you realize you've just revolutionized interstellar diplomacy through the power of friendship bracelets and snack sharing? Is that bad? No, Tommy. That's very, very good. The prisoner exchange became a welcoming ceremony. The three former pirates found themselves shaking hands with human officials, receiving temporary diplomatic credentials, and being invited to Earth for what Dr. Vasquez called cultural integration seminars and Tommy called the coolest sleepovers ever. As they transferred to the human flagship, Vex couldn't help but ask, Admiral Morrison, what made you decide to trust us? Admiral Morrison smiled, and for the first time it wasn't terrifying. Captain Grimtooth, any species capable of keeping my son entertained for 4 hours without losing their sanity is clearly advanced enough for civilized conversation. Tommy waved goodbye to the petty theft as it was towed away for retrofitting into a proper diplomatic vessel, which sounded much better than being impounded as evidence. Dad, can we do this again sometime? Absolutely not. Please? Meh. Admiral Morrison looked at his son, then at the three alien ambassadors who were already planning humanity's introduction to galactic civilization, then at the Dragon fleet that had been designed to protect Earth and had instead become the universe's most intimidating welcome wagon. We'll see, son. We'll see. 6 months later, the Galactic Council was still trying to figure out what had happened to their understanding of interspecies relations. The official report, filed by Dr. Vasquez and co. signed by Admiral Morrison, Tommy Morrison, age 8, and the newly appointed Earth ambassadorial team, formerly known as incompetent pirates, that had broken several records for most diplomatically confusing document ever submitted. Captain Vex Grimtooth, now bearing the title of Chief Cultural Liaison for Reformed Spacefaring Individuals, but stood on the observation deck of the newly renamed Starship Diplomatic Immunity and watched Earth's Dragon Fleet conduct formation practice. The ships moved like a synchronized dance troupe, if dance troupes were the size of small cities and armed with enough firepower to sterilize planets. "They're getting better," Tommy observed, floating nearby in a child-sized spacesuit that had been custom-designed with dragon scales. "Dad says they should be ready for the Galactic Peace Festival next month." Blort, now serving as Senior Navigation Specialist and Anxiety Management Consultant, oozed up to join them. His official duties involved helping human pilots understand alien star charts and providing real-time psychological assessments of how terrified various species were by Earth's diplomatic approach. "The Andromedans are still filing complaints about the dragons being unnecessarily intimidating," Blort reported. "They say having a peace festival escort that looks like mythological predators sends mixed messages." Tommy considered this seriously. "Maybe we should add some flowers to the dragon ships?" "Flowers are friendly." Krik, whose new title was Interspecies Combat Techniques Instructor and Arts and Crafts Coordinator, clicked his mandibles in what had become his version of laughter. "I still can't believe the Galactic Council accepted our credentials." "They didn't have much choice," Vex pointed out. After Tommy's testimony about the importance of giving people second chances, and also dragons are really cool, they had to either accept us or admit that an 8-year-old human had a better understanding of diplomacy than their entire legislative body. The truth was that the galaxy had been forced to confront an uncomfortable reality. Humanity's approach to interstellar relations was completely insane and absolutely effective. Other species had spent centuries developing complex protocols for first contact, trade negotiations, and conflict resolution. Humans had skipped all of that and gone straight to be nice to people, but also make it very clear that you have dragons if they're not nice back. Admiral Morrison's voice crackled through the comm system. "Ambassador Grimtooth, we're receiving a transmission from the Zephyrian Trade Consortium. They're interested in establishing formal diplomatic relations." "What's their approach been so far?" Vex asked, consulting his datapad of species-specific diplomatic strategies, which was really just a list of different ways to explain human-pack bonding behavior. "Standard procedure. They sent a formal delegation, presented credentials, offered gifts, and requested a meeting with our diplomatic corps." Tommy floated upside down, which somehow made his next statement even more profound. "That sounds really boring. Can we invite them to a barbecue instead?" "A barbecue?" Blort's eye stalks swiveled nervously. "Yeah, Dad says the best way to get to know someone is to share food with them. And humans are really good at barbecues. We could show them how we cook and they could show us their food and everyone would be friends." Dr. Vasquez's voice joined the conversation, carrying the enthusiasm of a scientist who had watched her wildest theories prove themselves correct. "Actually, that's not a terrible idea. Shared meal experiences are a universal bonding mechanism across most known species." Plus, Tommy added, "if they see the dragons while we're all eating together, they'll know we're the kind of people who can be scary when we need to but choose to be friendly instead." Commander Mitchell's laughter was audible over the comm. "Tommy, you've just described the foundation of human foreign policy." "I did? Cool." The Zephyrian Trade Consortium, it turned out, was delighted by the invitation to a traditional human diplomatic feast. They arrived expecting formal negotiations and found themselves at a backyard barbecue on the observation deck of humanity's flagship, complete with Admiral Morrison manning the grill while his son explained the finer points of dragon care to fascinated alien dignitaries. "The key," Tommy told the Zephyrian ambassador while showing off his collection of dragon ship models, "is making sure they know they're loved. Dad says anything you love enough will protect you back." The ambassador, a crystalline being who communicated through harmonic resonance, managed to convey both confusion and admiration. "Your species builds weapons of war out of love?" "Not weapons," Admiral Morrison corrected, flipping what appeared to be space burgers. "Guardians. The dragons aren't meant to attack. They're meant to make sure no one ever wants to." Vex, who had spent the last 6 months learning human customs, raised what appeared to be a beer, but was actually a fermented beverage from his home planet. Fell to the strangest diplomatic corps in galactic history. To friendship, Tommy declared, raising his juice box. To the dragons, added Commander Mitchell. To never having to explain how a third grader revolutionized interstellar relations, Dr. Vasquez muttered, but she was smiling. As the party continued around them, the dragon fleet maintained its protective formation in the distance. They were beautiful and terrible, and absolutely, completely unnecessary. Every species in the galaxy now knew that humanity could defend itself and its allies with overwhelming force. More importantly, they also knew that humans would rather share their food and teach alien children how to make friendship bracelets. Tommy floated over to where Captain Vex was explaining human-pack bonding behavior to the Zephyrian trade delegation. "Hey, Captain Vex, I've been thinking." Vex had learned to approach Tommy's thoughts with the same caution he once reserved for unexploded ordnance. "What about Tommy?" "Mary. Well, now that we're friends with lots of different aliens, and we have the dragons to keep everyone safe, maybe it's time for our next adventure." "What kind of adventure?" Vex asked, though he suspected he didn't want to know. Tommy's grin was the same one that had started this entire diplomatic revolution. "I want to meet the aliens who live outside our galaxy. Dad says there might be whole other civilizations out there that we don't know about yet." Admiral Morrison's voice carried across the observation deck with paternal authority. "Absolutely not. But Dad, think of all the new friends we could make." Tommy were still explaining to the current galaxy why our diplomatic protocol involves barbecues and dragons. "That's exactly why we should explore more. We're really good at making friends with aliens now." Vex looked at the 8-year-old who had transformed 3 incompetent pirates into ambassadors, revolutionized galactic diplomacy, and somehow convinced an entire civilization that love and overwhelming firepower were perfectly compatible foreign policy tools. In the distance, the Dragon Fleet completed its formation practice, their elegant curves and deadly beauty silhouetted against the stars. They were humanity's promise to the galaxy: we will protect what we love, and we have chosen to love all of you. "You know what, Tommy?" Vex said. Watching the future of interstellar relations take shape around a barbecue, hosted by a species that had accidentally solved galactic peace through the power of good intentions and really impressive spaceships. "I think the universe better get ready." Tommy clapped his hands together, already planning humanity's next impossible diplomatic success. After all, the galaxy had learned something important about humans in the past 6 months. They were the kind of species who could accidentally kidnap their own first contact scenario, turn it into a diplomatic triumph, and somehow make everyone involved grateful for the experience. The Dragon Fleet completed another perfect formation, their scales gleaming in the starlight like a promise written across the cosmos. Somewhere in the vast darkness between galaxies, other civilizations were going about their business, but completely unaware that an 8-year-old human was already planning their liberation through the power of friendship, barbecues, and really impressive spaceships. The universe, as Vex had learned, was about to get much more interesting. And somewhere in the distance, barely audible over the celebration, Admiral Morrison could be heard muttering, "Next time, we're definitely getting him a babysitter."